Hi, I'm Laura, and I want to tell you about my favorite movie. It's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. The end. Okay, what I mean is that in most cases where the question, what's your favorite movie, comes up, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is the best answer to the question actually being asked, which is, tell me, a person, or us, a room full of people you barely know, something essential about your personality by naming a movie you really like. I like to think that Scott Pilgrim vs. the World says that I am a slight hipster of a nerd with something approaching BFA-approved taste. I would like to get to know a girl whose favorite movie is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I am also never not in the mood to watch Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, so it's not a lie to say that my favorite movie is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Except that, well, gun to my head, my favorite movie is not Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. My favorite movie is Nobody. But the obvious problem with that is that in the 9 years since the first time I saw that movie, I have met exactly 3 other people who have seen it. And that is only because I am including the movie's co-writer and composer, Guster's Ryan Miller, who I technically met at a signing at Amoeba Records. And when I technically met Guster's Ryan Miller and blurted out a thank you for both making and introducing me to my favorite movie, he did this sort of double take where at first he was like, oh, yeah, and then he sort of caught himself and was like, wait, you saw that movie? Nobody saw that movie. I still have like 10 copies of that movie in my basement. So yeah, when I say my favorite movie is Nobody, what everyone, including one of the major players in making the damn thing, hears is that I am the kind of person who sees movies that nobody knows about, which is not even accurate. This is literally the one deep cut, you've probably never heard of it, indie cred that I have to my name. No, what my love for this movie should tell you is less that I know about cool obscure stuff and more that when I really like something, I like it all the damn way. And in 2009, I really liked the band Guster. So when the band Guster tweeted that Guster's Ryan Miller had worked on an indie movie, I made it my mission to see it. Lucky for me, it wasn't long before the movie's Facebook and Twitter pages were doing near daily DVD giveaways. I was sitting in an AP World Lit class, half of which I got to take as a study hall because I spent my lunch at a guest lecture because I was a cool kid, scrolling through Facebook on my shiny new Droid Aris when I came across one. Tell us why you need a free DVD of Nobody, best answer wins. Having just learned about the existence and reputation of James Joyce's Ulysses in said AP World Lit class,
no one has ever finished reading this novel and they are lying to you if they say that they have.
What I came up with was that I needed a new favorite movie because it had been brought to my attention that I would never be smart enough to truly appreciate my current favorite movie, The Brothers Bloom, the titular brothers being named after the protagonist in James Joyce's Ulysses, which I would never be smart enough to appreciate. Incidentally, The Brothers Bloom is not actually what I would have identified as my favorite movie at the time. I guess I have a storied history of lying about my favorite movie. Maybe I'm lying now! I was pretty stoked when that bubble mailer showed up at my house, but I was also a senior in high school, rehearsing a production of West Side Story, gearing up to play the oboe in the All-State Orchestra, and trying to get accepted to a 4-year BFA program in musical theater, so relaxing movie nights were pretty few and far between. The DVD sat on a shelf for weeks, waiting for the right moment. Waiting for the National Unified Auditions for Undergraduate BFA Programs in Theater. If you're not familiar, I kinda wish I were you. The way this works is that if you're one of the plucky teenagers out to try to get an institution of higher learning in the United States to let you take on massive debt in exchange for a piece of paper that says with some authority that you know how to act, then the 3 to 5 applications usually cited as ideal by college counselors just ain't gonna cut it. You are trash and almost everyone knows it, but if you throw your hat into enough rings, you just might be able to sucker somebody into thinking you have potential. So you pack all the dance clothes and solid colored knee-length dresses you own into your rollerboard carry-on and you and your mom fly to New York. Nope, wait, the New York dates are at the same time as All-State Orchestra, so you fly to Chicago and stay at the Palmer House Hilton with every other dewy-faced, starry-eyed high school class of this year actor in the greater Midwest. There is someone belting, or warbling, or shouting that monologue from The Star-Spangled Girl by Neil Simon in a room adjacent to yours at approximately every hour of the day and night. Apparently everyone else here knows each other because you can't get out of the elevator without bearing witness to some sort of squealing, squawking reunion hug, but the only person you recognize is that girl from camp who who always got better roles than you and was way too shiny and cool to even look at you from across the cafeteria where she was sitting with all the other shiny cool people who always got all the good roles. All of the girls know how to flawlessly execute makeup looks you've only ever seen in Teen Vogue cover shoots. You start thinking you're doing okay during the dance portions of the audition because you actually have some training and a good third of the people in the room are mostly singers, but then you realize another third have their splits in every direction, in the air, can leap so high you think they might actually punch a hole in the drop ceiling, and can keep on pirouetting and just not stop. Occasionally you get to chatting outside an audition room and it would seem like you're making a friend, but you both know damn well that Michigan only takes 12 girls and there's no way 2 of them will be brunette alto tappers. And you can't shake the feeling it's gonna be one of the ones with a glossy-ass headshot professionally printed with her resume on the back, not the one with the headshot her dad took in the basement stapled to the resume she printed in the hotel's business center because she didn't realize ahead of time that half her auditions were asking for multiple copies. You spend 60 straight hours begging grown-ass adults to take you seriously even though you are barely beginning to know how to be a person, and a non-zero amount of them tell you to your face that you are wasting their time with your amateur bullshit, and a non-zero amount of them officially but unceremoniously reject you via email before the day's even over. You double and triple and quadruple check what room your next audition is in and still end up in the wrong place, so you squash yourself into a taxi with 3 other barely if legal adults, a 7-minute drive away from a potentially life-altering audition that starts in 5 minutes, and you shout an address out the window to your mother because you have literally no way back to the hotel if she doesn't come find you later. And then you eat a deep dish pizza because you're in Chicago and you love deep dish pizza, and maybe it will fill the void in your soul now that a wicked stomachache would only ruin your afternoon instead of potentially the rest of your goddamn life. If someone for some reason offered to pay off my student loans, but only if I went back and did the Unifieds and got accepted to a program, I honestly don't know if I could do it. 10 years, a whole ass BFA, and a totally repopulated acting resume later. That's how bad it was. It was smack in the middle of this spandex-clad hell on earth that I flopped back onto my hotel bed, flipped through the stack of DVDs I'd brought for steam blowing off purposes, landed on this one that I finally had time to watch, and heard these words.
You want to hear a really dumb story? Well, I saved up every penny I had, took out huge loans, got 2 jobs so I could be a starving artist. Well, more specifically, so I could go to school and maybe one day be a starving artist. And I was at the finish line. I was about to graduate when I realized the person I want to be, the person I'm trying to be, I'm not sure anymore if it's the person I'm supposed to be.
And the tears finally burst the haphazard emotional dam I'd managed to build that day. I had never, prior to that day, doubted for 1 second that I would be a professional musical theater actress. From the moment I had learned what a Broadway musical was, that was all I had wanted to do with my life. And as far as I understood, I was good enough to make it. I got leads in the school plays, I went to a really prestigious summer theater camp, and sure, I'd pretty much been in the chorus, but so was literal Leah Michelle. Everyone knew the casting process was pure politics. I'd gotten the advice time and again not to go for it unless there was literally nothing else I could see myself doing, and I had determined that there was nothing else I could see myself doing. And I was going to take my 4.02 GPA and my 99th percentile SAT score,
weird flex, but okay,
all the way to a conservatory acting program that didn't give 2 shits about my academics and wouldn't be giving me any time to continue them because I was an actress, damn it, and I was going to make it. And it was at this moment when every application deadline in the country had passed, which to a 12th grader determined to go to college is the end of one life without the beginning of another, that it occurred to me for the first time that this might not work out. That maybe I was not, in fact, good at this, and even that maybe there were other things that I could see myself doing, which of course meant that I was a fucking phony who was never going to make it. These are, of course, not the exact emotions that this character is talking about in this moment, but man, it spoke right to the place in me that needed speaking to. Right, so let's actually talk about this movie. Nobody is a 2009 film directed by Rob Perez, co-written by Perez and Guster's Ryan Miller, and executive produced by, among others, Josh Hartnett. So hey, gentlemen of We Heart Hartnett, if you ever want to toss out a bonus episode, I have the line on a featurette about how Homeboy's house is haunted.
Don't believe in ghosts either, but that house is haunted as hell.
And here's where I would tell you that you might want to go watch this movie before you go any further, but as of the time of writing, there are exactly 3 copies available on Amazon, and the cheapest is going for $59.30 plus shipping, so I don't know. Unless you personally know me, Josh Hartnett, or Guster's Ryan Miller, that might be a little difficult. Anyway, I'm gonna tell you all about this movie so you can fully appreciate how sad it is that you may well never have the chance to see it. Nobody tells the story of Lindemann, a 20-something in his last semester as an MCAD grad student who's so far gotten by as your prototypical angsty artist whose work is an outlet for his issues. So when his therapist tells him,
"Maybe we've worked through all of your issues,"
he finds himself totally incapable of making anything.
The old me knew what to do. I mean, the old me had a way of doing things.
After a brief moping session, he seeks his classmates' help in finding his new thing.
I need a new thing.
You need a new thing.
Soul-searching hijinks ensue, but nothing quite clicks. The night before graduation, when he's decided he'll never be a great artist and he's going to quit, he gets one last burst of inspiration.
Long story short, I decided I was nobody.
That's kind of cool, huh?
Decides his thing is being nobody.
If you're nobody, like, really nobody, you're like your very own thing.
You really think I'm nobody?
Yeah, man.
I am nobody.
And finally makes some art. Alright, so one of the truly brilliant things about this movie is that it's about visual artists, but it never shows us their art. We catch glimpses around the edges, but we never get to focus on a full, finished piece. One big advantage of this is that it keeps plebeians like me who never really know what we're supposed to do with visual art from feeling like we can't hang, and it's a clever dodge of the possibility of a Your Eyes type disappointment with Lindemann's final piece. More on that later. But what I really love about this is that it means this movie refuses to be about the product. It's entirely about the artistic process. That's interesting in and of itself, but it also gives it a universality. I can't draw to save my life, but this movie still speaks directly to me as the kind of artist that I am, and even to some less artistic endeavors. Take Lindemann's progression of one-sided interactions with Tex, the granite block that will become his final piece.
I'm Lindemann. I guess we're gonna be working together. Alright, you fat bitch, now we do it my way. You think you can intimidate everybody because you're 2 tons of granite? Nuh-uh. So from now on, what I say goes, son. If I say breakdance, you say what move? If I say moonwalk, you say for how far? And if I say headspin, you say for how long? Got it? I'm sorry I called you a fat bitch. I want to make this right.
That is the creative process, in any medium, in any arena.
I hate you.
It also would seem that the shenanigans of artistic academia are the same no matter what kind of art you're learning to make based on the flawless way this movie skewers them.
It's so derivative, it's not even derivative anymore. On the surface, it's this new interpretation of some neo-cubist classical pop somethingness, but underneath, it's basically just this retro, abstract, expressionistic, realist nothingness, which kind of just gives the whole thing the feeling of surreal pastiche.
That, and it blows.
Make that a touch more hands-on, and you've got acting school.
Perhaps we take a 5-minute break before we next critique La series of Max.
Not to mention, prepping to write this script was the first time I'd rewatched this movie since I started making stuff on the internet, and, well, it's completely worthless.
Beyond worthless.
Everything sold in the first hour, and the old man commissioned another installment for $500,000.
Wish I'd thought of it.
That is YouTube. But as perfectly as the whole art conversation resonates, I think maybe a bigger part of why this movie has stuck with me for so long is how ordinary it allows itself to be. I don't mean that in terms of, like, the production value, I mean it in terms of the content of the story. Lindemann narrates the movie, and there's kind of a sense that he's trying his hardest to write his life into a nice, tight story.
I promised myself that when I finish grad school, when I turn in this final project, that I would know then whether to keep at this or to just walk away from the whole thing.
But life, as life is wont to do, refuses to follow a convenient narrative structure. I mean, the thing that drops him into this funk in the first place isn't actually feeling okay, but being told that he's no longer not okay.
Apparently, I'm not suffering anymore.
Says who?
My shrink.
Ooh, tough break.
He's still angsty, but his angst is no longer exceptional enough to drive a narrative.
I want you to put me back the way you found me.
Nowhere is this sense of the unbearable ordinariness of living clearer than in Lindemann's feelings for Lel. Lel hangs out in the periphery of Lindemann's friend group, just close enough to get invited on their camping trip. Side note, I have been to this party.
When you give drugs to a bunch of people who act like they're on drugs all the time anyway, things get a little weird.
I have been every person at this party.
You're doing it. You got it. It's a good talk, Buck.
And good lord, this trio of emotions is so real I don't know whether to laugh or weep, and yes, Edie, roast him.
I can't find the spoons.
Spoons are right here.
Sorry, where were we? Oh, right, Lel. She's few enough degrees of separation from Lindemann that they end up at the same party, but far enough that it's not entirely creepy that he can't say words to her.
Hi.
Hi. Bye.
Bye.
But in the age-old tradition of artists who can't figure out how to have productive feelings, he decides that he is in love with her and that this love will be his new thing, and proceeds to exchange no more than 3 words in succession with her at any given time until he declares his love while sneak attack stoned in the woods.
Hi.
Hi.
I love you.
And she responds like this.
And I've always loved you. And I've always loved that sweater.
What?
But this is where it gets just so achingly brilliant, because Lindemann wants so badly for this to be the end of the fucking world. He gets Fiona to literally bury him. And then comes the happy sombrero, which Perez has planted.
The happy sombrero is sort of like my Mexican rally cap, but it just wasn't the bottom of the 9th inning yet.
And reiterated.
Okay, it's not a lucky hat. It's a happy sombrero, and how could I possibly even think of putting it on at a time like this?
But the payoff comes not at the bottom of the 9th, but now, when a girl Lindemann has never meaningfully spoken to tells him that she loves him like a sweater, you know? And then Lindemann takes it the next step further, determined that between the little heartbreak and the magic hat, he must have found the cure for this slump.
Hey! I found my new thing! Earth!
But even he doesn't seem to really believe it.
You just found your new Earth thing.
It wasn't really mine. It was just something nobody else was using.
When I saw this movie at 18, I loved what a rare bird it was for sort of addressing a romance for the protagonist without tying it to the resolution of the story. But what it took a few more viewings and a few more years of life experience to appreciate is just how accurate a portrayal this is of like 90% of romantic inclinations that any human will ever experience. It always feels like it's going to change everything and or fix all your problems, but it's just kind of another thing that sucked a little bit. And Lel. Oh, Lel. I am here to gush about this movie, but the internet feminists would revoke my membership if I didn't at least mention how disappointing it is that her only notable personality traits are being beautiful and wanting or not wanting to make out with other characters. And honestly, the real tragedy here is that Lel's sexy lamp status is only cemented by the firecracker cast she stands in contrast to.
6.
On a scale from 1 to 10.
On a scale from 1 to 6.
Why would a scale only go to 6?
I found my new thing.
I fell out of a tree.
Spoons are right here.
The goat will be fine. He's from nature.
Actually, it's from the internet.
Yeah, there's a goat. Lindemann rescues it from a ritual killing and then just keeps it. God, I love this movie. But okay, if I had to pick one reason why this movie has had such staying power for me, it's all tied up in Lindemann's final piece. Because here's the thing, it's not that good. Again, this isn't my lack of an eye for visual art. I don't know what the piece looks like as a whole. But between what Lindemann and Hegel say about it, it kind of sounds like, you know, it's decent, it's a passing grade, something, it's got his artistic fingerprints on it, but it doesn't seem like it's even the best art he's ever made.
How does it feel?
Finished.
This is,
Yeah.
Lindemann.
I know, right?
Lindemann isn't a great artist.
You were the best at this school. With any luck in time, you might even have been very good.
But not great.
It is not likely.
He's never going to be a great artist.
First, there's a chance you might actually be a genius.
Well, I'm not a genius.
True, that's true.
But Lindemann is an artist. And that's not just the most important thing, it's the only thing.
Hey, where are you going?
I'm going to work.
What's the point if you're not actually a genius?
How should I know?
The first 3 or 4 times I saw this movie, I had this overwhelming feeling that there was something magical about it. It just kept showing up at the exact moment that I needed to hear what it had to say to me. But what I've finally come to realize is that there has never been and will never be a moment when I don't need to hear what this movie has to say to me. Being a person who is trying to make a life as a creative means an early onset quarter-life crisis that lasts forever. Maybe that's not entirely universal, and maybe I'll grow out of it eventually, but it's what it's meant to me for the last 10 years straight. I have gotten very comfortable feeling like I have no idea what I'm doing and just doing it anyway. I have honestly not put out a single video on this channel that I felt was really, really good at the time I rendered it. But you know what? I've gotten them all up here. I've consistently shown up at graduation in my silly costume, having done enough of the work to get the diploma. I do have more days when I wake up feeling like, I don't know, maybe I'm good at this than I have had with any of the other totally unachievable dreams I've set out chasing, but who knows if that means anything. When push comes to shove, someone's got my back to remind me.
You don't have to be an intellectual to be an artist. All you have to do is shut the hell up and just make something.
Tattoo that on the inside of my eyelids. Or, you know, paint it on a cut-up thrift store t-shirt and hang it on my wall, whatever. So, what am I saying about myself when I say Nobody is my favorite movie?
I'm Lindemann.
Hi, I'm Laura.
I'm just doing what I can with what I got.
And I'm just doing what I know how to do with the stuff in front of me.
It's a start.
And that is the only thing.
If you no idea what you're doing, don't worry. If you've no idea what you're doing, don't worry. If you don't know what you're doing, don't worry. Neither do I. Then no does anybody.
Hi! Thank you so much for watching this video! Wow, there are a lot more of you here than there were last time. It's very exciting. This one was a little bit different, but I promise there is more hard-hitting stuff coming soon. If you like this kind of different kind of stuff, let me know, because it was fun. This was a really special one to work on, and it would mean a lot to me to just know that it worked for people. Whether or not you liked this video, you should watch Joseph's video on Karen. That is all you need to know about it. Everyone should watch it yesterday. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons for helping me make this video, and a special thank you to my high rollers, Philosophy Tube and Critters May. If you want to become my patron and see your name up on this screen here with all these other people over here, I don't know where I'm gonna put them, somewhere up here. You can do that at patreon.com/Laura Crone. You can also leave me a tip on coffee, or you can check out my Amazon wishlist and send me something that I want to talk about. Music in this video was made by all of these wonderful people. Track list in the description as per usual. I'm gonna turn my phone off before it decides to turn off and erase all of this footage again. Ah!